to the community that needs it. And that's what we hear. We also hear with our staff from DOES. We have Diane and Mr. Hughes here from DOES, and they're basically going to be talking a little bit about what we're doing in order to create better opportunities for the community. So absolutely, we have some issues around the Kennedy Rec Center, and we are working to try to resolve those by working together with MPD and by giving the community the best resources that we have available. We are certainly want to put more police on the ground, and we definitely want to continue working with the community, but we certainly need to make sure that we're creating a safer environment for all residents to feel safe when they are walking from work and home. I also want to say that we have installed 8 cameras at the Kennedy Rec Center, and MPD has access to those cameras at any given time. They can walk into the rec center and see the video. So the fact that they may not be able to monitor it, maybe, I'm not sure if they're able to monitor, but I'm sure that they can walk in there and see what's happening. We've sent angles where those cameras are facing, and DGS has worked very diligently in order to making sure that we have those cameras installed there to catch any criminal activities that are occurring. On the point about Tamara Bliss, I definitely want to say that we have allegations that the perpetrator of the crime is someone in that same community where she was killed, and that's known throughout the community, but we cannot get anyone to come forward and testify to those facts. So the myth of some crime getting preferential treatments over others, we certainly don't want other people to feel that way, because all crimes need to get solved, and anyone that is committing a crime in the community needs to be held responsible. And that's certainly what we are pushing for. But of course, we need witnesses in order to hold someone accountable. I have worked very diligently in my partner Seth Shapiro in the mayor's office and providing resources to Ms. Bliss. We are very sympathetic of what she's going through, but I've been to the visual. When someone gets killed, I'm there providing support. I'm working with the families. We're finding resources for burial, and we are doing everything we can to assist the family. So we certainly want the community to understand that we are doing everything we can. We're going to be holding a job fair on September 30th. And we're going to do a pre-screening 2 days prior to make sure that people, when they come to the job fair, they come prepared and they come ready to be employed. So that's going to be on the 28th, I believe. And we're going to be passing out flyers. I'm going to be working with my commissioners, with the chair. I went to Immaculate Conceptions. I passed flyers there. I went to Gibson Plaza, churches. I'm going everywhere to making sure that everyone gets an opportunity to find employment. But we all need to be working together, and that's something that we're certainly working on at the Kennedy Rec Center. We need more neighborhood MPD interaction. We need to continue building the trust level so that when something is happening, we can all work together to solve it, and that's something that we are working on. I'm certainly supportive of the idea of trying to create a neighborhood watch group so that we can all watch over each other, and we can work with MPD so that they can give us the support we need, but we cannot have eyes everywhere, and we certainly want to make sure that those community members that are interested have an opportunity to collaborate with MPD, and we certainly do not want to put anyone in harm's way, but if someone sees something, they need to say something. Call 311, you know, if you need to find who your lieutenant, who your sergeant, who's your commander, that information is readily available. If you see something that should be reported, please call 911 because this is something that is happening throughout the country and certainly is affecting us here, and we certainly want to find our way out of this, and it's not through arrest, it's to providing community support. So I'm sure you heard about what the mayor's plan is, but the mayor's plan also has a safety net where we're trying to make resources available to the community. With that, I'll conclude my statement. Thank you so much.
Are you gentlemen going to speak?
We could just briefly say something.
2 minutes?
Yeah, I don't even think we're going to need
It's going to start on the 28th, the pre-screening.
Commissioner
That's what I
Nyberg?
was saying, what Frank said about calling 911 and 311. I tell my constituents all the time, call, call, call. I don't care if you just suspect, I do not care. You must call because this is data driven now. And they're looking at these facts, and if there aren't calls from certain neighborhoods, the police are not going to patrol the area, and that is the fact. So I do not care, you must call. Do not call me, do not tweet me, do not text me, you call 911 and then let me know after. But that's it, it's all data driven these days. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. When you call 311, how long should it be? How long do you have to wait on the line?
This, you know, I can't.
Because I was told it's a 20-minute wait.
Well, 911,
311.
I can't answer for them. I mean, I know, Frank.
Absolutely, and it depends on the reason why you're calling. If you're calling for an emergency, please call 911. If you're calling for support and services, and you find yourself being on the line way too long, you can grade DC, and you can also go on the 311 app, and you can submit your concern through the app, so you won't have to wait online, and you will be given an update as to what's the the wait period or when your concern is going to get addressed. But there are other avenues, and we're certainly working to creating a more active 311 app.
Yes, sir.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Donald Hughes. I'm a community outreach specialist with the Department of Employment Services. And first off, thank you all for having us here. Thank you, Frank, for the invitation. You've heard Frank say, and if you attended the public safety meeting last night at the Wilson Building, you probably have heard the Deputy Mayor for Public Safety also say that we can't police our way out of this issue of the rise in crime and violence in our communities. And at DOES, we absolutely understand that, and that's why we want to have a holistic approach to really addressing public safety. One that addresses the educational, the employment, the drug and substance abuse, the housing, and other issues that residents may face. So we partner with other organizations to really bring our services directly to the people of the District of Columbia, and I think that's a different approach than what we've seen in the past. So if it means coming out into a rec center, bringing our laptops, bringing our MiFi, and servicing residents right on the spot, or going into a neighborhood and actually setting up a table on the street, that is exactly what we're doing at DOES. And Frank mentioned a big hiring event, and I just wanted to correct the terminology that's used. We actually don't call our job fairs anymore. We call them hiring events because a job fair is essentially a cattle call where you bring residents in, you parade them in front of employers, and they don't necessarily come out with a job. But what we do prior to these events is we actually sit down with employers that have available positions that they're hiring for, and we invite those employers to the hiring event so that when residents show up, they're actually competing for jobs that are available at that very moment. So we just want to make sure that when we say the language job fair, that we actually try to think more about hiring event, hiring event, hiring event. But those are a couple of the things that we're doing. My colleague Diane and I brought some information that goes over all the services that we provide at DOES. But what we want you to know is that we're here to be a partner with the community. If any commissioner, if any resident knows of anyone that needs our services, we're happy to provide you with our cell numbers, our office numbers, our email addresses, and we'll do whatever we can to make sure that the folks here in this community and across the district really do have the best possible opportunity to provide for themselves and for their families. So thank you all. And we'll be around a little later if you have any specific questions.
Thank you for coming out. We appreciate it. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
I just want to make a comment that Frank has been at every meeting representing the mayor's office since she was elected, and has called me, have we been receiving trash collection? Is this happening? Are your streets plowed? Every kind of information. This is, I think, the first time that the mayor's office has actually done this kind of thing where they have somebody who actually responds and asks if everything is okay. So I want to say that we greatly appreciate that.
And I certainly just want to leave you with this. I just want to give you my information because we believe that we have to, be proactive, be engaging, be available. So if it's anything that you need, I certainly work with all of the commissioners here and the chair, but I want to give you my information just in case you want to reach out to me for any reason. My name is Frank, F-R-A-N-K, period, Maduro, M-A-D-U-R-O, @dc.gov, and my phone number is 202-538-0313. If you have any needs, please reach out, because that's what we're here for. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Frank, for coming out. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming out, and Matt, my friend here. I'm sorry, I forgot about you sitting there. Did you want to?
I don't. They
You're
actually
good?
covered it all.
Okay, great. Moving on to Dasha. This is an information-only presentation. This is not an action item. So if you are part of the Q&A that may follow, it will be very limited because it's just a presentation.
Good evening, Andrew Klein here on behalf of the applicant. To my left is Ilya Alter, who I think is known to you as one of the proprietors of Dacha. To my right is Martin Beam. He's an acoustical engineer with the firm of Miller, Beam, and Paganelli. First of all, thank you for giving us the opportunity to address you tonight. We're here tonight because we think there's been a lot of confusion and perhaps not clarity with respect to this project. And it's a large project, and we wanted to have the opportunity to come back before you and lay out the occupancies on the different levels and exactly what's intended, and also make our acoustical engineer available for any questions. I'll pass out to you a packet of materials that has some drawings in it, and I'm going to review those briefly because I really want to spend the time on allowing Mr. Beam to make a presentation concerning noise mitigation and then address any questions that you might have. The Alcoholic Beverage Control Board, or the agency ABRA, when the notice was posted, amalgamated all of the occupancy totals so that there was one large total that looks kind of scary, and I want to break it down for you in terms of what's intended for the occupancy, so there's some clarity as to what we're talking about between the existing outdoor area and the contemplated new indoor restaurant, and then another terrace that's contemplated. So on the first floor, currently there is the beer garden area with which you're familiar. They originally occupied that space under a temporary certificate of occupancy. It was renewed several times, the numbers changed, and the actual number on the ABRA license is much less than the current certificate of occupancy. So what's contemplated is that the summer garden, beer garden area would have a total occupancy of 300. On the first floor, which is the interior of the new restaurant that's to be constructed, they're going to spend in excess of $2 million building out this structure and on sound mitigation and in improving the beer garden area. The first floor inside occupancy is contemplated as 50. If you have it in your packet of drawings, the layouts of the various floors. On the second floor, on the inside, it's contemplated an occupancy total of 140 with an outside terrace of 50. Now, the outside terrace is contemplated that it would be for dining, it would be seated. there would not be standing patrons in that area as there is in the currently existing beer garden. And then on the third floor of the inside building, there would be additional occupancy of 60. Now, the terrace actually serves a couple of functions, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Beam in a minute, and he can explain it further. It is an area where there is contemplated to be 50 seated patrons, but in addition, it overhangs the beer garden area, and it is contemplated that the underside of that terrace area would contain noise-absorbing material and noise mitigation, which would have the effect of further controlling the noise from the beer garden. Since the establishment opened, there have been several measures that have been taken to mitigate noise. Mr. Beam has done some testing, he can explain that. Those have been effective as far as they've gone to date to reduce the noise levels, and it is contemplated that these additional improvements will further reduce the noise levels in the beer garden area. Mr. Beam, you want to address what you've done to date, what's the testing that you've done, and then what's contemplated in connection with the new construction?
Yeah, we tested last year around the Oktoberfest holiday. As Mr. Alter said, he assumed that would be the most crowded, so he wanted to get worst case scenario. So we actually tested through the whole weekend, Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, and then we did it further Monday, seeing that that's usually a down day to show like a difference in how things go from a full crowd to not as full a crowd. And what we found was that for the immediately adjacent property, 705Q, which is right across the alley from the beer garden, was impacted on that at those times. Mostly, the Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening. It ranged from a low of 60 on Monday evening to a high of 68 on Saturday night. So 68 dBA. This is the sound code is written in terms of decibels, 8-weighted decibels, which briefly is just simulates human hearing with one level, and that's how the noise code is written in terms of dBA. So then we took measurements over multiple hours as the night went on, and just to get a statistical sample of what was going on. And so instead of going through all those, we just set the high and the low to give you a range. We tested outside of 1543 8th Street, which is on the Q Street sidewalk, and the measurements range from a low of 55 on a Monday evening to a high of 60 on Saturday night, 60 dBA. Just for point of reference, 3 decibels, 3 dBA is considered, okay, I notice a difference. That's the minimum perceptible difference. 5 decibels is considered clearly noticeable, and 10 decibels is twice as loud. So if it's 50 and then it goes up to 60, that's would be thought of by most people as twice as loud. It's actually 10 times as much sound energy, but humans don't hear that way. So the Acoustical Society has done all kinds of testing, and so that's where I come up with those subjective ratings on those. That's not something we came up with. And then we went on the front and back of 1609 8th Street. At the front of 1609 8th, there's no audible noise from Dodge's operation. It's all basically road noise is what you get up there. In the alley behind 1609 8th, there was some barely audible. Mostly it was still traffic and the surrounding buildings, mechanical equipment. So it was and it ranged from, sorry, my arms are getting short, 54 from a low of 54 dBA on Saturday night to a high of 57 dBA on Saturday evening. So very little difference, which is basically lends itself to the fact that it's mainly the mechanical equipment, which is pretty steady. Air conditioning units and the like. Kitchen exhaust fans actually are back there too from some of the other establishments up on 7th Street. So really the current impact in our experiences tends to be minimal, except for the very closest properties. So at that point, there was like a very loose fence along their alleyway. So we recommended they tighten that fence up So I think they tore it down and put up a new fence that's board on board with sound absorption on the facing the Dasha patrons to prevent it from accelerating the sound and bouncing around, that kind of thing. So that's actually, we went back recently and tested again, and that's providing a 10 decibel reduction to the closest house, 705Q. You get your best effect close. Further away, it's less effective just because, you know, there was less effect to have. So its barriers are either most effective very close to the source or very close to the receiver. This happens to be very close to the source, so it's very effective for the sound. You know, as you can see, if this is wall 2 decibel, it's going to help a lot. If it's down here and goes way across there, it doesn't help as much. So that's helped. That's reduced that initial bleed out of the sound by about half the most impacted space. And the proposal for the terrace, well then, one of the problems that you have there is that there's the sound is just a canopy. It's just a tent over top, which provides zero attenuation of the sound. It's basically like, acoustically, it's not even there. So the sound just goes out and goes out in all directions. So with a terrace over it, that'll give us an opportunity. A solid terrace, that'll get another barrier. And then on the underside of that, we'll put sound absorption to, again, reduce the sound, both to the patrons, so that they don't talk as loud, because there is the cafeteria effect. You get more people, it gets a little louder, then they start talking louder, then they're like, oh, I can talk louder, and then everybody starts getting, you know. Whereas this, if you keep the sound down, keep the absorption in the space, and you probably experience this in different restaurants, if it's really lively and it's all drywall and all hard walls, it gets really lively really quick and starts getting very annoying. But for when you put some absorption in there, ones that have more like an acoustical tile ceiling like this, then it starts, you know, producing that sound, and it doesn't keep going and building and building. So that's the proposal from underneath. That'll also provide a solid barrier for a good portion of the bar itself to preventing that sound from spilling out. And then as far as the upper part of the terrace, the top part of the terrace, with the people seated, of course, the barriers work best when they're, you know, cut that line between us more. If it's here, it's not as effective as if it's here. So if you're seating, a barrier is much more effective than if you're standing for the same height barrier. So then, so there's going to be another barrier up on the second floor, wrapping around the terrace on the alley side and the Q Street side, to again get that sound, keep that sound away from the residential properties on, you know, further up Q and on 8. And then anything, the indoor stop areas are going to have sound absorption in there again to keep the sound down to the patrons, which will also keep it from bleeding out to the neighborhood, and also sound attenuating windows so that they're not blasting right through the window. So that's basically, you know, we've been doing this for a long time. We work for both sides of the issue. Whoever calls us and is like, oh, I'm annoyed by this bar, I own a bar, I don't want to annoy anybody, then we'll tell them both like how you work this out. So, you know, we're not lawyers. No offense, Andrew. You need a lawyer when you I mean, you need a paid advocate when you need a paid advocate, but we're not paid advocates. We're engineers. So we're trying to do the most practical thing that satisfies all parties. And so, you know, from the bar owner standpoint, of course, like the earlier applicant said, they don't want to annoy the people. That's just a pain. You know, everybody's complaining, now that everybody hates you and you're hiring people like me. So, and Andrew, so that's expensive, and you'd rather get along with your neighbors, I'm sure. So, Ilya has been very proactive in that, reaching out to us early, trying to get this, you know, do what he can to mitigate these. So when he rebuilt the property over the winter, he incorporated a lot of these ideas at that time. And it seems to have helped to this point, and he's instructed us to keep going. You know, when we do this next thing, he wants it to be, you know, minimize the noise disruption to the neighborhood.
Any questions or comments from commissioners?
In your application, I noticed that you're asking for liquor also to be included. Is that also gonna be served at the beer garden?
Yes.
No,
No?
the liquor is gonna be served inside
I don't know why I stand corrected.
the building. Outside, the beer garden side, will have only wine and beer.
Is that
It's not a concept for the beer garden to serve liquor,
Is that,
but the restaurant will.
is that this distinguishment made in the application?
It's not made, but we can commit to it in a revised agreement if that's something you like.
Any other quick questions from commissioners?
Yep, I do.
Go ahead.
So, Mr. Klein, you correctly stated that the establishment's liquor license application has a capacity for the outdoor seating currently of 126, which is very close to what the applicant originally told the community and when they were, association would be the capacity for that facility. And when the number of people that were out on the property when the establishment first opened was in that area, there were no complaints about noise. So more recently, I know that you're aware, there have been a number of inspections by ABRA inspectors that have determined that there have been 2-3 times that number of 126 present on the property. And I believe it's 11 cases that have been forwarded to the Attorney General's office about overcapacity issues. So I'm curious, what representations you would make about the licensee's willingness to abide by the new capacity that would be established, by the license that is ultimately issued as a result of this application versus their seeming inability or unwillingness to comply with the current capacity that's stated in that.
Well, those cases are pending. We do not concede that there are violations, and there's a ruling that the board has made, which we vehemently disagree with, which is that the capacity is limited to 126, in as much as the original application was for 190. That decision by the ABC board is being appealed to the DC Court of Appeals, and the enforcement issues will be dealt with the Office of Attorney General and with the ABC board as those cases come up. But we don't necessarily agree that 126, the original application, was for more than that. The original application was approved. The only restriction that I'm aware of is the 100 seats that was agreed to with this commission. And I'm not aware, and I don't know, but I'm not aware that that has necessarily been violated. The issue seems to be what's the occupancy and have they been in compliance. In terms of their commitment, Ilya and his partner need to make that commitment. I can't make that commitment. But certainly one of the issues is that the 126, given the space that's there, is an unreasonably low number, in my experience, representing other places, given the amount of footage that's there. And I think partially they're a victim of their own success. That doesn't excuse it. They very much want to come in compliance. They very much want to work with you and the Citizens Association to see if we can work these issues out. We've spent a lot of time, and Mr. Alter and his partner have spent a lot of money with this gentleman and with others to explore what we believe the problems are and to try to address them. And I don't think they do that lightly, and I don't think they do that with an intention to violate the rights of citizens or annoy them or subject them to unreasonable noise and unreasonable hours. I think that speaks volumes in terms of what they're willing to do, and we hope that you will work with us, and we will continue to work with you and with the other members of the commission to see if we can come to an agreement that will satisfy the parties and hopefully allow residents to live peaceably and in this business to be successful at the location, including the addition of a new interior $2 million facility, which we think is going to be terrific, and we hope you think so too, a terrific addition to your neighborhood.
So I've made, public statements that I don't have any concerns about whatever the capacity is for the building, because DCRA will tell us all how many people you can have in here. The issue has been the proceeding, and I am, committed to working with you to try to come up with a combination that can satisfy everyone. But I guess I'm just still troubled that, if the capacity that's on the license is 126, even if you believe that it's 190, when you get to 300 and more, how can a reasonable operator feel entitled to allow that kind of a capacity in the building?
I don't think anyone feels entitled, Mr. Padre. I don't think that's what this is about. I think there are a number of factors at work, but at this point, we're forward-looking. You and I have not even had an opportunity to sit down and talk about this application, despite numerous efforts on our part to reach out to you to have those conversations. So
We had a conversation on Thursday.
that was the first one that we've had, despite my reaching out to you over the course of many, many months to try to sit with you and talk with you. And we look forward to doing it again, and we're hopeful. We've tendered an agreement. We don't, a draft agreement. We don't consider that the end of the process. We look forward to your feedback and your input, and we're hopeful that we can come up with a document that all the parties can live with and will satisfy the concerns, your concerns and the concerns of residents that live in proximity and in the neighborhood.
I'm gonna have to put a kibosh on this. We'll invite you back again, and as things move and progress, we will again discuss Dasha and its situation. I thank you gentlemen for coming, and we do have to move on, I'm sorry.
Absolutely. Sure. Thank you for the time. We appreciate it.
Sursum Quarter folks, Holland and Knight.